All right. It's your main man, Mega. I'm in studio and streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitch.tv, YouTube, and anywhere else you want to catch us streaming. Of course, WNUR.org, and check out the live feed there. I am happy to be back in studio the first time in 2025. We are, of course, celebrating our 10th anniversary. It's a special year. Is 2015 plus 2025. My math is mathing. That does make 10 years, y'all. And it is a momentous occasion that we'll be celebrating throughout the entire year. And I am just honored to be a part of this show. Shout out to our founder and executive producer, Lauren Lowry, my co-host, DJ Lori Branch, and the Vintage House family that runs our spotlight and after show shows, DJ Mo Mami, DJ Rocky Floyd. Special shout out to Carl Jenkins and the entire Vintage House show family, and of course all of you who listen to us week in and week out Wednesday nights here on WNUR at 10 p.m. Central. Of course, it was a monumental 9 years in 2024 as well, with a 60th birthday joint for yours truly. Your main man Mega celebrated. God bless me to have 60 years on this planet, and we kicked off the year in style celebrating that. Craig Loftus and Joe Smooth and of course my co-host Lori Branch joined me and Mrs. Mega, as I like to call her, in a nice kickoff for the year in 2024. That was February. So we got another one coming up in February. Not another jammy jam, but certainly another rotation around the sun. And from there, the year just took off. We had a number of other events, including the Chicago Home of House exhibit at Navy Pier, which was a timeline composed by many, but curated at Navy Pier by the Vintage House crew, myself, Lori Branch, and Lauren Lowry. We did a number of panels and discussions bringing to life this history of house music. Shout out to DJ Terry Hunter, who joined us in a panel discussion at Navy Pier to kick off the opening of that exhibit in May. We participated as assistant producers of the house music documentary on WTTW, Chicago Stories, House Music, A Cultural Revolution. That is still available on the WTTW website under Chicago Stories. Check out that story. It is a powerful one, of course, told from the perspective of producer-director Barbara Allen and her associate producer, Keisha Chavers. I was also part of the House Music 40 committee, which worked diligently to raise funds for some of the pioneers of house who are afflicted, may need just a little extra assistance, and the house music community came together for that, and I was honored to be a part of House Music 40. Shout out to the vision of Vince Lawrence, who pulled the community together along with a host of others that joined in. That effort culminated in two significant events. One was a house music showcase at the NASCAR race, and that featured an incredible lineup of house music pioneers. Check your interwebs if you missed it, but it was a monumental show, and I was honored to be able to host that, as well as the 10 City reunion performance at the Metro Smart Bar, where Byron Stingley, Marshall Jefferson, Curtis McLean, and Harry Dennis, and Dajay, and Carla Prather, and a host of others were performing with a live band. The Good Girls kicked us off that night. DJ Lady D and Lori Branch, and of course DJ VD Girl, all comprise the Good Girls. And so the year, I'm sure I glossed over a host of other events that we got to be a part of, but whew, my breath is just catching back up with me after a phenomenal year. And I want to thank the house community, mad love and respect to all of the pioneers, all of the folks whose heart and mind connect to do the creative work of keeping this genre top of mind in our world, in a world that is certainly in need of music as a healing force, as a outlet. And we are certainly thinking of people who are impacted by the wildfires and other natural disasters which plagued our planet in 2024 and here early in 2025. Whew, it's a lot, y'all, but we are thankful that we have this music called house music and the community to keep us going, the momentum. So I'm going to be quiet for just a moment because, again, I'm moved. Here in studio, I am not alone, but I am joined by a cavalcade of people who's exactly what I said they were and spoke about in this community. People whose hearts and minds have contributed to the creativity of the community and the love and unity that is house music. I'm talking about our special guest tonight. He's known in the community as DJ Doc Matrix, Dwayne Oates.
Using my government name.
It's okay. Because I'm sure you're clear and free of any obligations. But also joining us, Disco Tony Shelton and DJ Marcel in the building.
Indeed.
We are, it is our 10th anniversary. And so throughout the year, we're going to be dropping gems of people and surprises on the Vintage House Show. And of course, it is a talk show, but we do interject a lot of music because the music is what this is also all about. But our story is this. The Vintage House Show is the premier talk show covering the business, the history, and the culture of house music. It is the largest archive of interviews and artifacts preserving the genre. So for all of you documentarians, researchers, authors, and other storytellers, don't forget to start here with the Vintage House Show. Our opportunity is really one in which we want to ensure that ownership of the story remains here in Chicago as the birthplace. Let me say that again. Chicago as I was just about to hit the dump button, the birthplace of house music, the global phenomenon that it is. So thanks for everyone that might be tuned in over the air on 89.3 FM and HD1, or on our streams. We are, of course, nothing without each of you tuning in and supporting the community. I want to get into the conversation now with Doc Matrix and find out from you where you were in this city, the world-class city of Chicago, in terms of your growing up and discovering music first and foremost, and then we'll go down that path of how you discovered house.
Okay, well, it started Southside of Chicago, of course. Um, Grew up in Inglewood, 63rd and Low originally. Moved when I was in the fourth grade. Inglewood is nothing like it was then, but we moved out south. My father got us a house out in the hundreds, 105th and Green, Morgan Park area, Fernwood, and I went to Finger High School. Went there for 4 years, graduated, and then went away to college, Illinois State.
I stayed in the building.
Yeah. And after a year, how do you say? I didn't really come back home, but I had a band. I always was a musician. That's what I was first. I was a musician.
What was your instrument?
The instrument of choice at that time was my guitar, and bass, and drums, and then later on is saxophones.
Yeah.
And my last keyboard, the last thing I learned was keyboards. I wanted to.
Wow,
learn that
you were
first.
one-man band.
Yeah, I was like Prince. It was around that time when Prince came out. It was funny because I first heard about Prince.
Yeah.
I went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
with a band, and I heard "Soft and Wet" in Atlanta. That's the first time I heard the song. I came back
Interesting.
home.
Yeah.
And I looked for it. For 4 months, I couldn't find that song, and it finally showed up in Chi-Town. So it was just
Wow.
weird how that
Okay.
demographic worked.
Right. Yeah, because Minneapolis, where he was creating all the great music, is a Midwestern city, right? It's interesting that, yeah. Okay. Well,
And the Prince note again, if I'm giving him credit, what made me, how I started learning how to mix, was I had 245s of When Doves Cry, purple vinyl.
yes, I got one of those.
And I just,
Tell me what the B-side is real quick.
I don't know.
Uh,
What is the B-side? Come on, Marcel. Come on, historian.
I want to say 17 days, but that's on another
Yeah, that's on
45.
another 45. But yeah, on one of my friends, he had turntables in his basement. We used to always go out to the Nimbus and party. And I was out there and I kept wondering, I was like, they were playing music, but they weren't blending it. They weren't mixing it. It was just slamming in the next record. And I was wondering why they weren't. I said, why? I used to ask my boy, why they not mixing the song? Why they not mixing it? And that's when I went home and grabbed those 45s. Grabbed the 45s and learned how to, started learning how to mix. And I wouldn't stop until I had perfected that.
It's interesting because mixing on 45s is it's like a feat that a lot of people are working through right now.
And not on techniques. They were on some Sansui.
Oh, some belt drive
with the
tables.
Yep.
So yeah, you still got fingerprints after that?
It's been, you know what? That was interesting because when I learned how to mix. I actually really cut my teeth in the club. That's how I never practiced. It was always on the fly. So I guess God just gave me that gift.
Okay, we'll take that. I mean, learning on the job training, as we used to call it, is definitely a combination of a gift, and the audience is going to let you know if you're not, hitting your mark.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you weren't a mobile DJ, is what I'm hearing, ever, or
No.
nope, you skipped that part.
Yeah. I was always club. from the very beginning.
What was your first club?
Very first club was Maxwell Swing
Oh,
out of River Heights.
just blew my mind. Yeah, Lansing. Wow, Maxwell Sweeney's. That it was a restaurant,
Yes.
but
Club 32.
to a club on, I guess, special nights.
So
Wow, you
and
just
it was
man.
weird because it was funny because the guy that actually my boy that I learned how to mix on his equipment,
Yes.
I told him I was gonna go and try to get a job there. And
Okay.
he said, well, nobody, you ain't gonna get a job there, DJing. And I was like, well, he just going to have to tell me no.
What was it? The restaurant owner or was it a promoter?
It was the DJs. It was
Okay.
two Caucasian DJs.
That were okay. They were the residents or whatever.
And this guy said, I approached him about it, and he said, bring me a tape next week. And I said, okay. So
Give me some time frame if you got it. I mean, again, you can do circa 1999. I mean,
remember when
yeah.
Maxwell Sweeney's
Okay. So for those of you on the streams, drop it in the comments if you remember the years around Maxwell Sweeney.
yeah, because that was before Nimbus.
Club Nimbus right off the Bishop 4. Well, it wasn't called the Bishop 4 then, but I-94 South.
But what happened, this guy, he told me, he was like, bring the tape next week.
Yeah.
And well, as fate would have it, horrible snowstorm. And I
Okay.
lived
It's
on-
winter time, we
I
know.
lived on 115th in Morgan,
Yeah.
and I had to get out too.
Right. You had to come from the west.
And it took me 2 hours to get out there. It was horrible. And it was like, at the time, it was like, you gonna go? I was like, yeah. One thing everybody knows about me, my word is Bob. If I say it, I do it. So I went out,
Yes.
drove out there, gave him the tape. I unwrapped. The guy looked at me. He was like, "You crazy?"
Why did you come
I
out
wouldn't
in
have come
this?
out here.
Right.
And he didn't take the tape. He made me play live.
Okay. Yeah.
And he didn't have traditional mixing equipment. He had a 12-channel Tascam board. So you were doing
Right. You were sliding. It was a similar board to what we have here.
1 and 2 for table left, 3 and 4 for table right. So he had me play, and my second record, the floor was packed.
Okay.
And I got ready to go, and he said, no, keep playing. So he let me play for about 20 minutes, and there was a guy, I'll never forget him, because he's the one who gave me my name, Doc. His name was Joel. He used to go to all the parties. You remember Joel? Yes. Joel he would be in the middle of the floor screaming, "Let's go, Doc!" And then so he came and asked me, he was like, "What is your name, dude? I ain't never seen you. What's your name?" And at the time, I was doing mixes on GCI's Double Jammer D.
Okay.
And
Different name.
Master Mix 6, remember them?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
one of the first ones.
they were emulating the Hot Mix 5
And
on GCI.
he said, "No, you the doctor. That's who you are from now on." And it stuck after that. And that's how I got my name.
Well, where the doc got the doc part? What about the Matrix?
The Matrix came years later with the movies because everybody was doing DJ Doc, DJ Doc, DJ Doc.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to separate myself from that. So I added
Right.
Matrix to it.
Give me time frame. So for those who are Matrix fans, they would know
This is
when the Matrix dropped.
the Matrix
That was in the
dropped way
90s.
It was way after. It was way after Clique. I had started traveling
Okay.
all over by then, so that's when I added it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So one of the things we promoted in your appearing here on the Vintage House Show was that you were the resident DJ at Heroes in the Clique. And one of the reasons why this was a timely interview, and again, we're glad to have you, but that building and all that goes with it was demolished in December.
Yeah.
For anyone who is driven through Motor Row within the last 2 months, you will see a glaring, gaping space
Yes.
where one of Chicago's or the south side of Chicago's centers of nightlife existed, and of course the infamy of later what became of that building with E2 and Epitome, there was a tragedy, and we can't tell this story without at least touching upon that tragedy and the lives. 21, I believe, were lost in that space, and I know there was a fight to keep that building as a memorial. We will never forget, if you're a Chicagoan, we will never forget that tragedy and the lives lost in it. But before E2 and Epitome, there was, again, this storied place in space, which went through a couple of name changes now.
It originally was La Mirage.
La Mirage before it was even
Juice Bar.
the Clique or Heroes.
Right. And the city got rid of the Juice Bar. It's like you couldn't have Juice Bar.
And in the late night
So
license.
Yeah. So then Heroes was born, and it was weird because I was DJing at AK at the time, and
here not far from the NUR studios. Yeah.
So and that's where we were doing a different variation of house. You know, the Hot Mix 5 thing. It was because Mario Smoking Diaz was on the lineup with me and Gary Jackmaster Wilds.
Yeah, so. Gary's my guy as well. Go way back. Where is Mario Smoking Diaz?
He's still doing his thing. He was always he pops up. He's doing his thing still.
Mario, if you're out there, got to get you on the Vintage House show as well. So the three of you were holding it down the AKAs, but then you made the transition to Heroes.
Right.
How did you get there? Who?
So there was a promoter named Keith. He came down and told us that it was an opportunity for us to get into a urban bar, a urban club on the south side.
Is this the same Keith that had the Comfort? He promoted at it was a spot on Chicago Avenue.
Yes.
The Comforts.
Yes.
I think it was called the Comfort Zone,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Same Keith.
Yep.
Know that guy as well. Good.
And so
good
what happened? I told Gary, me and Gary agreed. We said, okay, you go down to Heroes.
Yeah.
So we keep our spot at AKA. I'll play at AK till we close because they had busted our license back to 2:00.
Okay.
So you stay there, and then when I get through, I'll come down to Heroes.
Again, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. What's the timing, the years?
Ooh, wee.
Because you know, I don't know if you got a chance when you played Navy Pier in December, but we had that exhibit, Chicago Home of House, and it was a timeline, and so we're still building that timeline out. So we refer to some of these interviews to help inform that exhibit. But we'll come back to it. I'm not gonna keep you on the spot. I'll let you continue the story.
Where was it? Oh, so we would go down, and there was a DJ there originally called. I have to give everybody a flower. There was a DJ there originally called SK1. He was the one that was holding it down. And then, but when me and Gary came in,
Well, you all were bringing that north side flavor. You talked about the style of house that you were playing up there. Yeah. Was it different than what you brought to Heroes?
We adapted to the area.
Okay.
So AK was what it was.
Yeah.
North side.
Yeah.
Music, more Italian, more
Italo disco, Euro disco. Yeah.
Or the Hot Mix 5s when they were doing all that.
Yeah. So Capricorn, I Need Love, right?
But when we went to Heroes, it was urban.
Okay.
So, and then we stayed there. I think that's when I ended up with 601.
All right.
Kirk Townsend. That was the birth of 601.
Kirk Townsend and 601.
Yes.
Okay.
That played a big part in house music also because it gave me the opportunity the whole reason for 601 was they wanted to put together a social group that could take us in areas where we couldn't get into.
Yep.
So one of our first parties was at Faces.
The Faces nightclub. Was that the same spot as? We're gonna switch up mics because I don't think I got that one activated.
It's it was on
Was
Rush
it-
Street,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
and it was
You know, I'm getting a little old, as I shared at the top of the show, so some of this is hard to remember. But yes, Faces, because that was on Division and Rush, and definitely what I do remember, it was hard for us, our Faces, to get in there, get into those places.
and I always want to tell that story because Kirk and them did a phenomenal thing with taking us places where we couldn't get into. They wouldn't allow us to get into, because back in the day, if you didn't remember, I know they do. We couldn't be north of Michigan Avenue. They wouldn't let us have anything north of Michigan Avenue.
That
If we
sounds about
did,
right.
if we did anything, it was south, which brings you to the Charlie Club where I was DJing there after I left AKA.
So the Charlie Club on Michigan Avenue was a pretty phenomenal time. It was a place that really, I've got some interesting associations with that. That's a story for another day when I'm telling the story. We've got you here. So what was your affinity for Charlie Club? I mean, the location was great. It was central, downtown, I mean, on Michigan Avenue.
I ended up there by happenstance. So
Yeah.
what happened, I was at AKA, I was doing other things. Farley had just came over to GCI. And
From BMX.
right, and I saw him down on Halsted at the Guitar Center on Halsted. And him and
You're
Hot
pointing
Mix,
to Marcel.
yeah, because you know,
He-
and it was Hot Mix Hudson. Him and Hot Mix Hudson was crossing the street of the Guitar Center, and he was like, "Doc, I've been looking for you," and I was like, "My number ain't changed, so you ain't been looking too hard."
That's a familiar exchange. Yeah.
And he said, "Look, they're starting this house night on Thursdays at Charlie Club."
Okay.
He was like, "I can't do it." He said, "I started just to skip out on it, but since I saw you, I want nobody else to do it but you." And
That's
I was
a
like,
blessing.
I was like, "Get out of here, Farley." And I almost didn't show up. And he called me. He was like, "Hey man, you going? You going?" I went. And the funny thing about it is how a lot of people don't know who I am by name or face. A lot of people didn't know who Farley was. So when I showed up, all these kids were on the street wanting to help me take all my records upstairs, thinking I was Farley. So they carried all my crates upstairs. I didn't say nothing.
You're right.
They carried all my crates
I love
up
it. I love it.
to the party, and that was the birth of Charlie Club. I was doing Thursdays there. Joe Smooth was there on Friday and Saturday. The guy that night said, "Hey man, you phenomenal. Why don't you come see this guy, Joe Smooth?" I said, "Oh, that's my boy." He's like, "Yeah, come tomorrow. I want him. I said, "Okay." I came out and Joe was like, "Ah, I got a spot for you."
In classic Joe Smooth style.
Yes, because he was at Metro at the time.
Yeah.
He was doing time at
He was
Metro.
doing it,
And he was starting to travel with his record label in Italy and stuff like that. And he's like, "I can't be here all the time." So he gave me one of his nights, Friday at first. And then he told me, so "You know what? Why don't you just do both nights? I'll just hand it over to you." And
Joe's that dude, and he clearly knew what he was doing in handing it off to you. He recognized.
so that was some more cutting our teeth with house music, because I think around that time it had started to go underground a little bit. And I always want to say that I kept it above ground because I was always at those clubs that were in the limelight, like
the
main club.
mainstream.
Yeah, because I was at the Clique from the time they opened till it closed. So
Okay.
I opened it and I closed it.
What
So that was 10 years. That was,
what range was that?
I wrote it down here. I think it was 89 to 99.
I love a guest that comes prepared. He did his homework.
Yeah,
Yeah.
89 to 9, 10 years, man. 10 years. And I remember when it closed because Calvin came to me, Calvin Hollins. He said, "Doc, we always got paid out on Monday." Well, he paid people out on Monday. He said, you got to come to the meeting on Monday. And I was like, for what? I was like, I got paid already. What I'm coming to the meeting for?
Yeah.
And he was like, I need you to come to the meeting, Doc. I was like, all right, for you, I'll come to the meeting. And when I came to the meeting, he said, as of this moment, the Clique is closed. And it took me 3 days to move all my music out of there around the clock.
So I want you to take us inside the Clique. Help us visualize it. I mean, I
You never been there?
patronize- Oh yeah, no, I
Oh,
patronize
phew.
it. I want you to help draw that visualization for our listeners, and many of them, I'm sure, have also visited. But there are some people who have not, and that will hear this interview and will want to understand because there's a lot to it there in terms of where you DJ, the dance floor. Again, just referring to the building itself, that exit and entry. And of course, for those who don't know, and again, I'll let you tell the story about the upstairs, but downstairs was a restaurant.
Comedy club. It was,
Yeah,
well,
and a
E2 was a
comedy
restaurant,
club.
but yeah,
By the time, the last
yeah.
kind of business was operating there was that
Yeah.
restaurant, but it had been a comedy club. It had been
Show place for bands. In the
live
front
band
room, live, and in the
performances.
back room was a comedy club, and then upstairs. So that's where Bernie Mac and everybody cut their teeth there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along with I mean there are hosts of other venues like Dingbats and other places that
Yes.
were doing those shows. But again, as a Southside Central nightlife place, this venue did so much. I mean, our executive producer, Lauren Lowry, I hope you're feeling better, Lauren. She did some research and she pulled up these articles of the various people who performed there, who appeared there just because they were in town. But we'll double back to that after you describe the upstairs for us while it was the Clique.
So let me go back to Heroes. That's huge in the architecture of the Clique.
Okay.
So Heroes was upstairs. You had to go upstairs, and when it was Heroes, you went up the staircase, made this U-turn. There was a stage, and in the corner was a Coke booth
Okay.
that doubled as a DJ booth.
Yeah.
That's where we were. Then after it closed down, and
Heroes closed down.
Right.
And
then
reopened
reopened as the Clique.
Clique.
And I was with 601 by that time, because when they opened as a Clique, Calvin came to me and said, I want you to be my DJ for the Clique.
Okay.
And I was like, why? And then he goes, because I want what you doing. And that was 601. He said, I want 601. I said, you can't get 601.
That was set aside
Yeah.
for
So the dynamic of 601 was they was young black professionals. That's what that was. We did that so that they had some place to go and didn't have to, not being prejudiced with it, but just they had their own little clique. Like working downtown, dressed up, they didn't want to be around the jeans and gym shoes and all that type of thing. So that's what 601 was.
I'm gonna bust myself out. I was at the 601 parties. Howard and the guys
Yes.
were all, part of the crew.
Yeah, packed every party.
Oh my gosh, the hotel ballrooms
Yes.
were packed.
One of the biggest, one of the best ones I always had memories of is when we was out at the Sheraton Hotel. Yeah, in the ballpark. Oh yeah, in the ballpark too. Yes. Yes. So when it
You
became,
weren't gonna bring that because it was a different vibe.
yeah, I told him, I said, they're not gonna come. because this had a once a month. They
Right.
geared up for once a month. I got someplace to go once a month.
That was a
I know
thing.
where. Yep.
Yep.
And then, but the click was every week. I said I'll make click do what it do, but it's not going to get you 601. And it ended up being satisfied because at the end of the day, it was about the bodies, and it stayed packed. And that's where if you walked upstairs, turned left, walked across the room,
Yep.
dance floor was to your right, stage was to your left, spiral staircase
Led up
to the level where the DJ booth was,
in the heroes. I mean, in the
and the
click
click.
incarnation
Right.
of that space.
And like I said, there were so many celebrities that came through. A lot of ball players came through. So
Yeah.
Nick Anderson from Orlando Magic would always want to come through, but he didn't want to, he brought his people. He didn't want to be downstairs, so he
He wanted a
built.
VIP experience.
Yeah, so he built what's called Nick's Nest, and that's where all the ball players always or VIPs were upstairs all the time, looking down over the floor.
I remember that. What was it like being, in that space, and what was your fondest memory from Heroes or the Click?
Just the music, man. I could just let go. It was like I could just take people on this journey. It was like I didn't have to hold back anything. So it was like, and so everybody knew the programming because I always tried to keep it kind of R&B laid back early, but around 11:30,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
when house happened for the next 2.5 hours.
You ramp it up.
Yeah.
And bring people to that euphoria
Yes.
that house music engenders. And it, I mean, I often say it on this show, house is a feeling. It's a spiritual thing. I'm not taking from what others have referred to it as, but reiterating what this culture is about. And so what you just described helped to establish.
You know what I always called
and
it?
validate.
Yeah, I always called house music black people soul music.
Black people soul music.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, of course, house is inspired by so many things: gospel and soul, traditional R&B, Latin music. There are all these things that have come into it to make it what is unique about the genre. But that's an interesting perspective. We'll take a moment from that phrase, black people's soul. One more time.
Black people's soul music.
Black people's soul music. And just give a shout out again. We are the Vintage House Show, WNUR FM 89.3 FM in HD1, Evanston, Chicago. You're tuned in with your main man Mega. I'm in studio with our guest, DJ Doc Matrix, former resident of Heroes, the Clique, and as we learned tonight, some other pretty significant venues and events in Chicago's nightlife and, of course, in the house music community. We're also joined by DJ Marcel and the one and only Disco Tony Shelton.
Disco Tony Shelton.
She's a recurring friend of the Vintage House Show, and certainly, as are many of our guests, very special to us. So thank you all for being here as well. Getting back to some time with Doc Matrix, and your career has not stopped.
No.
You had, those moments that you shared earlier in your career, and again, it sounds like we rounded out into the 90s.
Yes.
talk about, catch us up on what's been happening since.
Um, Basically, a lot of when I got out of the clubs, because I said I never wanted to play in lounges, because I've always played in clubs,
Yes.
and I tried it. I played at Cotton Club, and then Strictly Business, and then I ended up going out to the 50-yard line, and then I was like, you know what? It's not the same as the Clique. I kept looking for that click again, the Clique, and it never really. I never really got that feeling as when I was playing there. So I just started traveling, and it just that's what I've been doing since I kind of like grounded back in.
Did you travel outside of Chicago
Oh
or
yeah.
around Chicago?
Oh, outside of
Talk,
Chicago.
talk about some of those places you traveled to.
Ooh, Atlanta. They had this big thing with old school Saturday. Yep, Saturdays. I used to do it with my boy DJ Cowboy.
Cowboy Chicagoan or at what do they
Well, he
call
was
them? At
Chicagoan.
Aliens.
Yeah, he was
ATL.
Chicagoan. I mean, rest in peace. He passed, but
Okay.
he was a mainstay here, and
Cowboy.
he went to Atlanta, and I joined up with him out there and did
Yeah.
some things out there. I did some things. I do things in Vegas. I do things in South Carolina. I do things in Florida. I just
There's a Chicago contingent in Vegas
yes.
too.
It's been that's been hard. It's been hard.
There's been a
But
good
it's
grind.
hard. Yeah,
and
it's
I
been
think
hard.
there's some breakthroughs
Yeah.
that have been made. But wow, it's like the great Western migration is what you're describing almost.
Yes. Yeah, the good thing like Jesse Sanders is out. You know, he was out in Vegas doing his thing in
Yes.
that hotel, so it helped having that name because I was thing about me. I never had that name. I felt I had that name, but when people brought it up, they were like, "Oh, that's the guy
That's
from yeah," you know. So
so we're caught up to now about 2000, the first decade between 2000 and 2010.
2000. Let's see what we
You
got. Yeah.
traveled around the U.S. now. Just you can elaborate or choose not to, but your production, your musicianship, your DJing, is that your primary way you earn a living? Is it so many people have given that a try
Right.
and have had to, get some supplemental income?
Right. It could be.
It could be. Okay.
It could be.
All right.
I choose for it not to be.
Understandable. It's I'm sure anyone who has tried it and or is even doing it today will not dispute how difficult and challenging it is. But certainly nothing that is rewarding isn't challenging, and so we certainly applaud what you've done, and it's significant because we've got you on the show to share.
Yeah,
to share
I
the story.
appreciate you so much, man. It was,
And so yeah, there's a story for another show of how we met. But one of the things that was discussed when we met was that you were down at Navy Pier in for New Year's, I think.
well, I was near. I was down the street from Navy Pier.
Down the street.
Yeah, I
Talk
was at
about where
322 Illinois,
Yeah.
and it was did a New Year's Eve party there.
Yeah.
Didn't realize how close I was to
When
Navy
they
Pier
booked you, yeah.
because I don't get south.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been south in so long. Everything is me in the northern suburbs. So me and my DJ company, so Ace Entertainment. But I went and did a party there.
Yeah.
Was the headliner. Got through. I'm thinking I'll do my 11 to 1.
Yeah.
I'm out. 1:20. All my stuff packed up. I go downstairs to the garage to leave, and I'm stuck there for 2.5 hours.
Trying to get out.
Trying to get out of the parking garage.
322, yeah. That night was the fireworks.
Yes.
Right, and of course the normal New Year's Eve celebration. and we're glad that you came down that night because I think we had bumped into a guy whose name sounded like the name of a guy in the Hot Mix Five, but it wasn't.
Exactly.
And so that's how the conversation started. And ironically, the history sort of unfolded, which, again, I love being in Chicago because that talk that speaks to at least how influential people have been in creating and sustaining the genre of house music. So I'm curious, what do you see in the years ahead for house music? Because a lot of us who have been involved with the genre are aging, and unfortunately, some have left us already.
Right.
How do we preserve and keep it going? How do we make it the sustainable genre that we know it will be? But we certainly have to do some planning and some uh, creating some inheritance, if you will.
Well, everything cycles, right? Throughout your life, you've seen everything cycle.
Absolutely.
And it seems like every 10 years.
Yep.
If I'm wrong, it seems like every 10 years
10
it
years
cycles
is,
around.
yeah, that's reasonable.
And so, what you did 10 years ago, all of a sudden it's prevalent again. And the good thing about house music has been a mainstay, and I'm so proud at the fact that it finally got its due. It's crazy. It's like the 40th year.
Last year we
And-
celebrated. Yep.
And
the
I,
40th
what I
anniversary
called
of
it?
the first
Well, you know what I
house
called it?
recordings.
40 acres of mule.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it took
Oh.
that long. It's crazy.
Yes.
But now it's broken through.
Yeah.
Just think about everything that's happening with house music over the past year, 2024.
Yes.
The Chosen Few,
Yes.
their event, NASCAR, Lollapalooza. All of these big stages where we could not get into. When I did Lollapalooza, I played house music and never got back to Lollapalooza.
Interesting. What year was that? Would you say?
This was what was it?
The mid 2015.
Because I remember when I did it. Oh, when did Microsoft release their big thing at Columbia College? Because it was the year before that, because I remember I did Columbia College the following year. I didn't go back to Lollapalooza, but I was on at Columbia College, and we had the whole floor got the contract to do the release of Microsoft, whatever it was. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to have you back to give me some dates.
Yeah.
Man.
I got this jotted pad. Man, I'm like, I was trying to remember all this stuff. It's crazy.
I didn't tip you off that I would be asking for dates, and again, it's fun, to be able to remember and test the memory, but also it is for the purpose of research.
Of research, right?
Yes.
So that you have it. Absolutely. And I want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really need to know the dates. It's been a journey, man.
And that's why it's important to be here.
With Tony, every time I did a 601 party, I looked to my right. Hey, every time.
Scoot over, Tony, because you DJ'd some parties with Tony.
Oh my God, for years.
Marcel, come on.
Yeah,
over.
Marcel. Yeah, come on, Marcel.
I'm gonna ask you all to speak loudly so we can pick you up on our studio mics and our streaming mics. And where did you meet Doc?
DJing, the music guy, the equipment guy, with Wayne, with oh my God, Joe and everybody else. So they always had some part of my party doing something.
So you have talked about you have probably one of the most massive collections of photographs of these moments in this era.
Need them.
So yes, there's going to be something happening there, and with that. But do you remember a particular photograph with Dot?
Oh my God, I would probably have to look through thousands. I'm sure I do.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure
that
I have them. Yeah.
that's your homework.
Okay.
Tony. So everybody's got homework.
Well, I
tonight.
don't keep my pictures in storage. I keep them under the bed. Crates. I don't keep nothing in storage.
All right, so yeah, I feel like Professor Mega tonight, as opposed to giving everybody homework. Marcel, talk to us about your role as a DJ here in Chicago. Where did you play?
1977 is when I began DJing.
76.
So you're talking about the Attic, you're talking about the Blue Gargoyle, you're talking about a lot of different clubs that started
I love it. Yeah.
during that. I originally did not start as being a DJ. I started as being a record collector.
Okay.
And I
Many
probably
of
have
us.
one of the biggest record collections out of any DJ. Because my span was, when I started DJing, Audrey Hatcher taught me how to DJ.
Shout out Andre.
Keith Fobbs.
Key Fobs, yeah.
We used to practice over his house where the chosen few were just beginning.
Okay.
So you got people like Batman, Kirk Townsend,
Yeah.
and all these other people. And it's funny because I didn't meet Doc until the Cotton Club. So that was many, many years afterwards.
Yes.
And it's so funny because all the clubs that he was at, I was at the opposite clubs. Like I used to do sound for wall-to-wall sounds,
Yeah.
and I was setting up for Little Lewis at Coconuts.
Yes.
I was doing Coconuts. I was at Paris. I was at
Yep.
Cowboys. These are the legendary clubs on Broadway.
Yep.
And it's funny that he was at all the opposite clubs and we never crossed paths. Probably he's at what, 601?
But you
Yeah.
you all knew of one another.
Yeah.
By a DJ called Fire Jack Brian Culture. So he's the one that introduced us.
Wow. And you did not know that you all were going to be here tonight. So we created magic
Yes, you
with
did.
this reunion.
Yes, you
And-
did.
This is good.
And I actually have to credit Tony for that magic happening tonight. You know, again, great friend of the show, and we thank you. We thank you for all that you've done as well in bringing the community together and
Aw.
celebrating this music and the phenomena that occurred when we were teenagers.
Oh
Yeah.
God,
Right,
yeah,
we've
yeah.
been friends since the Kenwood days. I didn't go to Kenwood. I can't claim to be a Bronco. With Marcel, Kenwood, and again
And I was fingered,
Finger.
but I knew about all the things that they were doing, but I was doing something else at the time.
Isn't it awesome that there was no social media and yet
Yes.
Everybody,
there was this connectedness? I went to St. Francis de Sales High School on the southeast side. If I had to do it over, that's another story. But the one thing that it gave me was that drive to get connected outside of that space because it wasn't happening in that space. And so Kenwood, Whitney Young, St. Ignatius, Quigley South, and I was the only one on my block that didn't go to Mendel. So the Mendel Monarchs have, and anyone listening from Mendel who wants to dispute this, I've been adopted as an honorary monarch,
Okay.
right? So
That
much
works.
respect to Blue Smoke and the Mendel Monarchs. But yeah, everybody that went to Unity and Seaton and Longwood and Immaculata
Yes.
and Limblom. Of course, my fellow show host, executive producer, and Lori Branch both went to Limblom. And so I get that swoop or whatever they say all the time in my ear. I'm like, oh,
Oh
man.
Lord.
Yeah, but we also had the discussion of what high school turned out some of the most DJs. right? And
Mm,
yeah, it's
That's
a
a good
thing.
question.
South Shore, Hyde
Kenwood.
Park, and Kenwood.
Kenwood.
So we got some
Yeah.
votes for South
Mhm.
Shore, Kenwood, and
Hyde Park.
and Hyde
Kenny
Park.
Ray, Jesse Saunders, Wayne Williams went to Kenwood.
Really?
Yeah. And I went to Kenwood. I'm not a DJ, but I went to Kenwood.
Well, yeah,
Right.
you
Marcel
got
went to Kenwood.
And I
Good
can't
thing
dispute
legacy.
it. Those are all
Right.
my guys. We was like,
yeah.
like
We-
me,
Right.
me and Mike Dunn. Well, our relationship started as musicians. Like he was doing production. He was
Yes.
doing production. And then
Another
me and
friend of the show.
Eric the Wiz did
Yeah,
production with them
wow.
with Crucial Conflict in them. So it's like I've been everywhere. It's
Yes.
like it's just the paths have crossed, but it's just. I thank you for this opportunity.
Well,
Yes.
what I also love that's emerging as a theme from this gathering is it's often discussed and debated that this community had not worked together a lot.
Oh,
But that is a fallacy.
yes, it is.
There are many, many instances of people working together, collaborating, and certainly those occurrences are even more transparent now and apparent that there is a collaborative spirit that will continue. Certainly because we all recognize, again, we have to take ownership
Yes.
of what we've created
Yes.
here in Chicago. And that's one of the reasons we do this show. There are other shows as well, and we're thrilled to see those. Of course, imitation is the biggest form of flattery, but we've been at it for 10 years, and I just got to go back to that as a point we're going to celebrate throughout 2025. So one of the reasons Tony Shelton is here is that she did something that, again, reflects that there is a level of collaboration in our community, that there is a level of mutual love and respect in our community. And I'm going to put her on the mic to explain exactly what it is. You said you had 2 minutes to
to do this.
to explain a little bit of what it is and
Okay.
maybe even a moment of why.
Why this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what I'm doing right now is giving out of the 500 million people that I know personally, I'm giving
his
like
face.
80 people Lifetime Achievement Awards for their contribution to whatever your field is. You have a field, so you're getting one of these. You're deserving. So this is a presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for Mr. McFall here,
Wow.
of all the work you've done and doing and going to continue to do, and it's from Tony Shelton Legacy Awards. So this is one of the highest honors from the President of the United States, signed by Joe Biden before he got, kicked out. So, and this is a personal letter from him, signed by him.
I'm speechless as I had some sense of what this was, but not
Yeah.
full
To this
context.
magnitude, yes.
Yeah. Well, you're very deserving of that, and had I known you were here, you would have got yours. And this is Marcel's for his contribution to house music, the same one, and you have yours in a frame. So congratulations, Mr. Davis, your
Thank you.
contribution to house
Marcel.
music.
The class of 2024. Put it there.
Bump, bump.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
So,
And a big hug for Tony.
Yes, indeed.
thank you guys
Thank you.
for all you do and putting up with me for 75 years. Not that I
We ain't
know
that
you,
old.
right?
And so, again, it's going to be continue to be a special year here on the Vintage House Show. In our house community, we continue to see new documentaries coming out. There's one debuting at Sundance, featuring some of the impact work that Vince Lawrence has done. There are a couple of others in the works. Make sure you check out House Music and Cultural Revolution on WTTW. this story is one that we must all continue to tell, to live out, to use media to help amplify it. And we'll be here at the Vintage House Show every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Lori Branch, myself, your main man Mega, executive producer Lauren Lowry, and then the Vintage House Spotlight Show with DJ Momami, and the after show with DJ Rocky Floyd. We look forward to hosting those of you who tune in and listen and contribute. And thank you for everyone that tuned in tonight. Our time is up. You've been tuned in to WNUR 89.3 FM, Evanston, Chicago, and HD1. Your main man, Mega, I'll see you actually February 12th for another episode of the Vintage House Show. But make sure you tune in next Wednesday night as well. We'll be here. Until then, stay warm, stay safe, stay in that feeling that is house music. Your main man, Mega, we are out.
You gotta take some pictures. We have a minute to take some?
Oh no! Don't ever hesitate to come on through.
Yeah, I'm the DJ after you guys.
So we're glad that there's a DJ coming in now.